Imagine you've been holding it for hours, not because you want to, because stepping outside could get you killed. The rain hasn't stopped for 3 straight days. Every path outside your cave has turned into deep mud. Lightning keeps tearing across the sky, and somewhere beyond the trees, wolves are howling. Inside the cave, everyone sits quietly around a small fire. Children are asleep. Hunters repair their stone spears. The storm is so loud that nobody says a word. Then your body reminds you of something you can no longer ignore. You have to go. No bathrooms, no plumbing, no toilet paper, just endless rain, freezing wind, and a wilderness that wants you dead. So what did ancient humans actually do when nature called during a storm that never seemed to end? The answer isn't just surprising. It may explain why our ancestors survived while so many other human species disappeared. Today, going to the bathroom is something you barely think about. You pause a movie, walk a few steps, flush, wash your hands, and your day continues. But remove every modern convenience. No house, no roads, no lights, no doors. Now imagine living in a cave with 20 other people while rain pounds the landscape for days. Suddenly, one of the simplest parts of daily life becomes a serious survival challenge. Because leaving the cave wasn't just inconvenient. Sometimes, it was the most dangerous thing you could do. Most people imagine prehistoric humans as dirty, disorganized, and barely surviving. Archaeology tells a completely different story. When scientists excavated ancient caves across Europe and Asia, they didn't find living spaces filled with human waste. Instead, they found something unexpected. Fireplaces stayed in the same places for generations. Sleeping areas remained separate from cooking areas. Stone tools were made in specific sections of the cave. Even 40,000 years ago, people were organizing their homes. That raises an obvious question. If they weren't using the cave, then where did everyone go? The obvious answer seems simple. Outside. But during endless rain, outside became a completely different world. The ground turned into thick mud. Small streams became dangerous rivers. Every step became slower. Every sound disappeared beneath the rain. And that's exactly what predators wanted. Rain didn't stop wolves from hunting. It didn't stop cave lions or hyenas. In fact, storms often made it harder for humans to hear danger approaching. A short walk away from camp could suddenly become a deadly risk. And remember, this wasn't just one person. Entire families lived together. Children, older adults, pregnant women. Everyone faced the same problem. Which means ancient humans needed something far smarter than simply going outside. They needed a system. Anthropologists studying modern hunter-gatherer societies have noticed something fascinating. Groups don't randomly choose where important activities happen. They naturally separate sleeping areas, cooking areas, food preparation, and waste. Not because someone invented rules. Because experience taught them what worked. Families that kept their camps cleaner became healthier. Healthier families survived longer. Over thousands of generations, those habits became tradition. Long before anyone understood bacteria, humans had already learned one of civilizati. The surprising truth is, ancient humans almost certainly didn't have one universal solution. Instead, they adapted. If a cave was home for several days or even weeks, people likely chose designated places outside the living area, far enough away to keep the cave clean, but close enough that reaching them didn't become unnecessarily dangerous. Not bathrooms. Not toilets. Simply places everyone in the group understood. Modern hunter-gatherer societies have followed similar patterns for generations, and archaeologists believe prehistoric humans likely developed the same habit through experience. Nobody had to explain why. If one family kept waste away from where they slept, they stayed healthier. If another didn't, the consequences became obvious very quickly. Nature became their teacher. But what happened when the rain refused to stop? This is where survival became a balancing act. Waiting too long wasn't an option. Yet walking too far into the storm could be just as dangerous. So researchers believe people probably chose the safest possible route, the shortest possible distance, and returned immediately. The goal wasn't comfort. It was minimizing risk. Every extra minute outside meant more cold, more wet clothing, more chance of slipping, and a greater chance of crossing paths with a hungry predator. To us, it's a simple trip. To them, it was another survival decision. There's another misconception most people have. Many imagine ancient humans as filthy, covered in dirt, living in complete chaos. But archaeology suggests something very different. Again and again, excavations reveal organized camps, cooking areas, sleeping areas, fireplaces that remained in the same place for generations. People who create organized living spaces usually care about keeping those spaces usable. That doesn't mean prehistoric life was clean by modern standards. It certainly wasn't. But it also wasn't the careless mess Hollywood. Of course, they didn't have toilet paper. Instead, they probably used whatever the local environment provided. Soft leaves, grass, moss, smooth sticks, or water when it was available. Different environments meant different solutions. A forest offered different materials than an open grassland. A rocky valley offered different options than a riverbank. Once again, adaptation mattered more than perfection. And that single idea appears again and again throughout human history. When the environment changed, humans changed with it. In fact, that ability may have been our greatest evolutionary advantage. Neanderthals were incredibly strong. Many Ice Age animals were faster. Others had sharper teeth, better claws, or thicker fur. Yet only one human species survived. Not because it was the strongest, but because it solved problems. Everyday problems. Finding food, protecting children, keeping fire alive, finding clean water. And yes, even deciding where to go to the toilet during days of relentless rain. The smartest survival strategies are rarely dramatic. They're the small habits repeated thousands of times over countless generations. Those tiny decisions quietly shape the future of our species. So, where did ancient humans go to the toilet when it never stopped raining? Probably not inside the cave. Not because someone invented a prehistoric bathroom, but because keeping their home clean increased their chances of survival. They chose practical places, adapted to the landscape, worked together, and passed that knowledge to the next generation. It's a reminder that history isn't only about mammoths, stone spears, or cave paintings. Sometimes, the smallest questions reveal the biggest truths. Because civilization wasn't built by a single invention. It was built by millions of ordinary decisions. Made by ordinary people who refused to stop adapting. And perhaps that's the real reason you're here today.